Hi, I'm Deb Hansen, the Education Associate for Visual and Performing Arts at the Delaware Department of Education. The Department of Education and the Delaware Division of the Arts have long been partners in standards-based instruction in our schools. I'm really grateful to the Division of the Arts for supporting standards-based instruction by ensuring that arts education grants coming into the Division of the Arts are aligned to the set of standards in art, theater, dance, music, and media arts that were adopted by the State Board of Education in March of 2016. We have created two modules, one that looks at standards-based instruction, and the second one that really gives you tools for navigating through the standards website. This third module will focus on assessment in the classroom, a tool that you certainly can use to determine students' understanding against the standards and also to help you use as a tool for evaluating your effectiveness with your programs as you work with Delaware Public Schools. Assessment, as you can see, is a process for gathering data. In the arts, we have the ability to tell the important stories about the effectiveness of our disciplines and our interaction with children on an everyday basis. While that's really important information to share, stories are so important, we need to be able also, though, to provide and support those stories with hard data. And so we are becoming much, much better in the arts about gathering data and using data to inform our instruction. Thomas Guskey is a researcher that I have been following for some time. His area of expertise at the University of Kentucky is about professional learning for teachers. Teachers are critical to any instruction, and we know that the quality of our teachers and the quality of the professional learning they receive has a direct benefit on their ability to engage with our students in meaningful ways. One of the tools we encourage them to use is assessment. So for assessment to become an integral part of this process, teachers must think about assessment in three ways. Assessment should not be a dirty word. It should be a great tool. So it should be a source of information, not only for teachers to use, but think about how valuable knowing how you are doing on a continuum can be to a student. So rethinking what the process of assessment means. Assessment should be followed with high quality and underscore corrective instruction. So if you are going to collect data on your students and you want to know how they're doing as you progress through a unit of instruction, how can you circle around and provide corrective instruction? Arts educators are by their very nature great coaches. We've watched teachers for years coach marching bands and productions and dance ensembles and create amazing exhibitions of student artwork. But what we have not done well is formalize the ability to collect data and then to do something with that data. The third point I wanted to make is that through this data collection, we should be enabling students to grow over time. And at times that may mean that students receive second chances to demonstrate their success. So not just being so rigid that we have one opportunity instead of that artistic process of refining work over time. So there are a number of different kinds of assessment. The first one I want to talk about is formative assessment. It's sometimes referred to as assessment for learning. This is literally the process we use to instruct our students, but to check for understanding along the way. And so it's important to think about this as different tools you use. It might be an exit ticket, which is using one of the I can statements in the standards to ask students about some portion of the instruction that happened that you want to understand how many of them got it. Did they understand it? And so as they leave the classroom, you can collect these Post-it notes with that response on it about your exit ticket prompt, and then you will have that data. You will have 22 students out of 25 that answered correctly, and that you know in your next instructional session you need to make contact with the 2 that are still struggling. These could be simple as having students raise their hands, having students use paper plates and as pie graphs, where you cut the paper plate on the radius and slide a red and green paper plate together, photograph that, and you are generating data. The second kind of assessment that I want to talk about is summative assessment. This is probably the one we're most familiar with. This is assessment of learning. It occurs at the end of a unit, of a chapter, grading period, but it is culminating activity, and it is literally the performance task that is evaluated against the rubric. The rubric is really important because the criteria for that performance are literally the standards that are identified as the learning targets for the unit. So as you begin your unit, you're identifying my students are going to create, they're going to reflect, they're going to connect, they're going to respond. And so these are literally the standards that you're using as the criteria in the summative rubric that determines students' progress toward the standards. The last assessment that I want to bring to your attention is peer or self-evaluation. This is one that is emerging as one that is very important. It also provides opportunities for the teachers in the classroom to really place their energies with students who are struggling or who may need guidance to enrich or accelerate their learning. What we would encourage you to think about is what kinds of tools can you provide to students as they are progressing through the unit to be able to check in with themselves or check in with a colleague or peer to help them determine how they're advancing and what progress they're making during the unit. It's a great chance for students to share in a productive way and to help them learn as they are assessing each other. Here are some guiding questions that you might want to consider. When you are working with schools, make sure that you have a sense of what the district's grading policy is. What forms of assessment should receive grades? As you can see in this module, we talked about the 3 forms of assessment. Formative assessment, according to Gusky, should be used only to guide the next instructional session. It should be something that a teacher uses to inform what am I going to do next. I think this is certainly a topic of lively discussion in education, and you may have your thoughts on this as well.